Today's episode of the What's That Like podcast is brought to you by Opera House Brewing Company, Hillsboro, Illinois. Hashtag drink local. What's that like? What's going on, people? Hey, another edition of the What's That Like podcast, and I am your host, John Knowles. Today is another new episode, another update episode of an older episode, and my guest today is no other than seven-time guest of the What's That Like podcast, Zach Weigel. Zachy Wags, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing wonderful. 6 times. I mean, I think we should just forego the robe, and maybe you can just get me like a custom mask.
A mask? Something that you can wear around town? Because you're going to be wearing it for a while. How's your quarantine life going?
So quarantine life is going well. As you know, I'm a teacher, so every day we do have things to do, students with things to learn. But the fun part of this is that I can do it all from gym shorts. And I realized how many more gym shorts I need, because that is all I've worn now for a month.
Yeah, exactly. And who cares if you washed them? You're not going anywhere anyway.
Oh, no.
You're just sitting around watching TV.
There's been an increase in my amount of dishes that I've had to do, but a decrease in the amount of laundry.
That's true. Yeah.
Laundry's just not really happening much.
And nor should it. And really the point of us coming together today, and I'll tell you, I told you the story, but I'll tell the listeners the story. It's we're on day 34 of our lockdown at the Knowles house. And we went through, I'll get your thoughts on this in a second. We went through Tiger King. We finished Ozark season 3, and we got done, and my wife goes, "Well, now what are we going to watch?" And I went, sounds like a time to get Zach Wags back on the podcast, because I'm sure everybody's got the same questions, and that's why we're coming together. But before we get started on new recommendations, Tiger King, I'd say we're not recommending. Everybody's probably watched this thing at this point. What were your thoughts?
Why wouldn't we recommend Tiger King?
Well, I don't think we need to, because everybody's already watched it.
Oh, no, yeah,
That's
yeah.
my
Okay,
point.
so I mean, why wouldn't we watch it? Because we should be watching it, because it's escapism TV at its finest. But my thoughts was that I can't believe I didn't even know this story beforehand. I'm like, this is way too crazy of a story to not have heard about until now.
No kidding.
And what I don't think gets enough credit was how well made it actually was. It was done, because every episode really, really left you wanting more. Like, it was almost like there was a cliffhanger at the end of each one.
Yeah, they did a good
where things
job
just
of that.
got weirder and crazier.
And crazy is the best way to describe it. I will tell you, like everyone, they did a good job of setting the hook. You know, the reeling in part, took about 4 or 5 episodes. But that first episode, you go into it thinking, I'm going to watch this for 20 minutes and then I'll know.
Yeah.
And you were in immediately, right?
Yeah, hook, line, sinker.
It was just no question the amount of crazy. And I was like you, too. It's like, how have I not heard of this before? And I can really get a tiger for $2,000. That was really what it was about. Not that I need a tiger, but good God. I mean, talk about it though. I mean, like I said, I don't think anyone's surprised by this. It's taken over everything in social media. Meme culture is everything about Tiger King now. You got idiots at the press conference of the daily presidential press conference asking Trump whether he's going to pardon him. I mean, we've gone to. I honestly think I'm over it. It's hit its peak. I want to flatten the Tiger King curve. I'm kind of done with it. It's over.
Well, did you watch the latest one? The latest episode they came out with?
Oh, the one on TMZ?
No, there's I thought Netflix was releasing a new one this past weekend.
That's out?
Maybe. I don't know.
There was a TMZ episode. So, well, there you go. If you haven't done that, go look for that. So that's recommendation number 1. And
if anything, so you can understand what all the memes are about, and why be left out of pop culture history making right now?
And you need Carol Baskin killed her husband. That's what everybody wants to talk about. You'll know why.
Yeah, there actually is one new episode, and it's called The Tiger King and I, and it's an after show that's hosted by Joel McHale.
Oh, there you go. Well, it's legit.
And he talks to some of the characters, the real life characters that were on there, because these are definitely characters.
Oh, they're definitely characters. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you couldn't write a character that fits some of these people.
Yeah. So Zach, we on November 18th, 2018, almost 16 months ago, we came together here in Studio 312 because going into winter, we figured people needed something to binge. We did a podcast then of the top 5 things you should be binging, and we kind of did it just like this. We didn't really get into the obvious ones. We talked about Game of Thrones. We talked about Ozark, which is back. You got to finish that off. We've done it.
Yep.
We talked about House of Cards. We talked about all the Stranger Things at the time. But our top 5 then really ended up turning into a top 8 or 9 for each of us of things that people should go back and watch. And so we're probably not going to repeat them, but let me go down the list, and I'll run your list first, and then you can give me any comments if you think people still need to go back or any updates that they might need to know if they haven't figured it out already. Your honorable mentions from November of 2018, if in no particular order here, were Firefly, The IT Crowd, Black Mirror, and The OA. Which one of those, if people haven't watched, would you recommend?
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror.
Just because there was a new season that came out. It's now being taken over by Netflix, because it used to be a BBC show, and it's just every season is just phenomenal.
And
it really is.
You don't need to. It's not an anthology. Every episode's self-contained.
Yeah, and it's like it's a modern day Hitchcock
or Twilight Zone. I compared it.
Twilight Zone. Yeah, Hitchcock, Twilight Zone, all that.
Yeah. And then your top 5 from 5 to 1. Number 5, Haunting of Hill House. Number 4 was Love. Number 3 was The Leftovers, HBO show. Number 2, Halt and Catch Fire. And number 1, Westworld.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's still there? If your rankings were done again today, would you have changed them?
I think I'll stand by my rankings then, but I would definitely still keep going with Westworld, because that's still on the air. This latest season has been, I have to go back and do reading afterwards, kind of like Lost, but it's because it is so much to try to comprehend. And that's fine, because I have time to do that. The only thing that I would maybe do, actually, you know what? No, because you might have it on a list here coming up. So yeah, I will stand by that for now.
Okay.
It's like a period in time. Like newer things have came out, and you can't knock what was there, even though it was only a year and a half ago.
I have not done Westworld yet, and I know you criticized me at the time. But what I'm seeing now is there's some online controversy about season 3. Is there something people need to be aware of, or you just go dive in, just as good, just pay attention? What's your comment there?
So my thing with season 3, without giving anything away, is it's almost like the premise in a way kind of changed, but then again it hadn't. But it's just, there's so much to take in to try to figure out what's going on, that it's requiring extra work. But then again, the other seasons are kind of like that too, where there's a lot of twists and turns. So no, I wouldn't listen to any controversy. It hasn't been my favorite of the 3 seasons, but I think there's going to have a pretty good payoff, and there's still 2 episodes left, because it's always had a good payoff.
Okay. All right. Now my list back in 2018, my honorable mentions were Lost, The X-Files, a show called Jericho, and 24. 24 we spent a lot of time on. It was kind of one we missed and brought up during the conversation. But one of those I'll come back to.
Did you ever watch the new one?
Yeah. With the other fella, it had no Jack Bauer.
Yeah, no Jack Bauer.
Yeah. I guess that's out there for streaming. But yeah, to me, that's one you don't even pay attention to. Yeah. Now my top 5 from 5 to 1 was a show called The Colony, which was a reality show where I actually just reposted that. You should go back because it was kind of what happens if people had to live in a post-apocalyptic world. But it was sort of a reality show. And they had to like figure out how to get solar power and how to eat and how to wash clothes and all that stuff. Nothing we're living in right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of worst case scenario. But The Colony, Discovery Channel, it's still out there. You can go to Discovery Channel on the app and watch that. You mentioned, or we were talking maybe off air about Lost in Space was on there. A show on Netflix called The Toys That Made Us. And I think they've actually got an update to that season since we did. I had Battlestar Galactica, the remake from the 2000s, and Band of Brothers. Of those, I would tell you my list probably wouldn't change. I would still stand by all those in there. What are your thoughts?
I've thought about going back and redoing Battlestar Galactica again. I don't know, like the thoughts on the latest season of Lost in Space.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Liked it. What I do like about it is, so we talked about it the first time. There had only been season 1. Season 2 premiered, I want to say around Christmas last year, right? And took the show a little bit of a leap in time forward. As my friend noticed, all the kids were a bit taller, so they had to make it a little bit of a sight forward. And then it had a cliffhanger ending. And I'm actually excited about this part. They came out and announced one more season, and that's it. I think with a lot of these shows, they do go on too long. I'm actually happy to know we're going to get one more run, 10 episodes, and that's the end of the story. Why do we want to stretch this out? I like that. I like that approach.
I do, but I feel like there's a lot they could do with this show. That does sadden me. Only one more season. I think if it's going really well, there's nothing that's gotten stale about it.
No.
And so when they announce one more season, I'm like, okay, good, they're going to wrap it up. But okay, I mean, I'll take it because at least we're there for the ride.
Yeah.
At least there was a ride.
The only thing
it wasn't left off after one season and then.
The only thing I'll say is if you haven't watched it yet, don't do it right now because the next season will probably be out in 2021. You might as well just binge it all out then, so you're not waiting. That would be my advice. So,
but at the same time, people need stuff to watch.
But we've got other recommendations. That's the point.
To watch it.
Yeah.
But sometimes people binge it a little too quickly here.
Yeah. So this is what we're going to do. The last time we just talked about a bunch of shows, no categories in particular. And I think we kind of left a lot on the table for a lot of people and what they might want to do. Everything we kind of showed you before in a lot of ways were what we would call serialized shows. You kind of had to binge them out, watch everything. You had to go back, you had to follow every season. Or you might have been, no pun intended, lost. You really had to do that. So what I wanted to do this time, because we've got all kinds of listeners, we've got all kinds of people, they're working at home, they've got kids now at home. It's not like during the middle of the afternoon while they're homeschooling their 4th grader. It's a good time to bang out Game of Thrones all in a couple of weeks. So what I wanted to do this time, Zach, is kind of break this thing down into some different categories. And what I wanted to do is I'll preview them all for you here. Number 1 is we wanted to talk about some stuff kids will like, but you will too. That's one category. We've got a whole category I want to do with you on documentaries or docuseries. We want to talk about what you missed. So even stuff that maybe we talked about previously, or there's stuff out there that's come out since, we can use that category. And then finally, background. Stuff you just put on, it's in the background. If you missed 5 minutes because you had to go tend to something, or you're cooking, or you're doing stuff around the house, it doesn't matter. You don't have to rewind it and go back because you've probably seen it 100 times. So what's your best comfort food, so to speak? What's the best background noise series that are out there? You're my guest. Which one would you like to start with of those?
I'd say we just dive into the order that you had there, the kids.
Okay.
And I think it's mainly because this is my weakest category.
Okay. You want to finish strong. There you go.
Exactly. I want to that slow build up. It's going to be like an orchestra. All right.
All right. So we're not going to spend 20 minutes on all of these. So we'll give you some ideas, a couple of comments, the network you can find them, and we'll move on. Zach, what do you got on your list for this? We won't rank them 1 to 5, but Give me your hits.
So Umbrella Academy.
And what's that about?
Umbrella Academy is kids with like superpowers, kind of. It's on Netflix. It's only had one season. They already announced they're going to make another season, and it was just fun, good, kind of like a Lost in Space, just entertainment that doesn't make you think too much, but it's still quality entertainment. Definitely, there's some cheesy parts, but cheesy is all right. I can handle cheesy.
Okay.
Now that's younger kids. That's my problem. There's younger kids, and then I'm going to look at like the teen.
Okay.
And the next one is Daybreak. And Daybreak, sad part is it only lasted for one season. They came out with it on Netflix. They put a bunch of push behind it. It was on all over the shows, and it's about basically the world. Something happened in the world where there's not many adults left, and it's all being ran by kids, like high school kids. And they make gangs, but based on there's like the farmers, there's the jocks, there's
So it's like if high school was the world.
Yeah,
exactly,
and there's it has a lot of just like fun qualities to it, a lot of funny parts. But they did announce they weren't going to make a second season, which really surprised me because I thought it was well done and it had a lot of promise to it. And then I'm going to shift gears to a comedy that I think is good for the whole family. Now, some of these I can't tell you exactly where to find it because to me everything's streaming if you want to look for it on different services. But this, I'm going to go with Last Man on Earth.
Okay, I remember that.
I don't know if you ever. Okay, with Will Forte.
Good, kind of. Maybe good, maybe a little sad, but yeah, I can go for it.
I thought it was one of the funniest shows ever made because the premise was the guy honestly thought he was the last man on Earth, and so here he is just traveling around the country collecting things, living in the White House. I mean, he has nothing else better to do. But as you see, the show goes on. There was more than one person on Earth, but still, it's people trying to navigate this lonely world and making the best out of it. But I just thought it was hilarious.
And it was funny. It was. Yeah, it was half-hour episodes, too.
Half-hour episodes.
Very lighthearted comedy. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I don't think it was things that was too... I think kids would have liked it. So.
Sure. Yeah. Mine, probably more in the reality... Well, I'll start with one. You talked about the younger kids and the older kids. So I'll go with the younger kids, the ones I like that I think... Actually, I would like to, and I've watched a couple of them, and now I'm going to screw it up. But it's Disney Plus, and it's the Forky, character from Toy Story.
So you said Disney Plus. I thought you were going to go a different route. Sorry.
But it's the Disney. Forky explains things like what is love, what is reading, what is money. At least I think if you got young kids and you're trying to explain something to them, they can kind of get the concept of things. Also, on Disney Plus, I liked it from an action perspective, but I think young kids love Star Wars.
That's what I was going to say. I thought you were going to say to begin with.
It's the Mandalorian. If you haven't watched The Mandalorian yet, it's something to go back to. I'll tell you what I loved about The Mandalorian too, Zach. Short episodes. Some of them were only like 28 minutes long. Some of them were 40 minutes. But, Jon Favreau made it. Obviously, we love him. And it was great. And it was just, every episode was only as long as it needed to be. That was good.
Yeah. And it got the job done. I mean, I that's what I liked with being shorter episodes. It's not like there wasn't too much of lollygagging. It was straight and to the point. And, well, Jon Favreau did some of those, but that last episode, Ty Waititi. What's this?
The guy, we know, Ty Waititi. Now I'm screwing it up. I could have said it before, but yeah, he was the robot in there.
But he also directed. I think that last, which I thought was phenomenal. That beginning of it, that first 10 minutes, I could watch over and over. Because it was just hilarious.
The thing that made it really good.
Waititi.
That's it. The thing that there was the scene. It was, if not the last episode, it was the second to the last episode where the stormtroopers, and the whole show. If we talk about meme culture. Baby Yoda took over everything. So you had the stormtroopers. They had Baby Yoda, And then they had this little scene where they were talking about, you're going to look at it? No, I'm not going to look at it. And then they were trying to shoot at a can or
that's what I'm
something.
talking about.
And
that episode, that part
great.
right there, one of the best ever.
So good. It was so good. My other shows are Survivor. You can watch Survivor and The Amazing Race on the CBS All Access app. I know Survivor's on Amazon as well. Maybe not all the seasons, but kids love Survivor. My son's 17. It's still his favorite show. It was his favorite show when he was 3. And he's probably watched back episodes of this hundreds of times. There's 500 plus episodes. Do you need to watch them all? No. But just go pick out a season, 13 episodes. If you're watching them on Amazon, they're 40 minutes a piece. There's the action element for the kids. They're running obstacle courses and stuff. There's the social gameplay for the adults. I think that's my good recommendation. You can add Amazing Race to that as well.
Okay. I can go with that. I never did watch Survivor, but it's not like I never did dislike it.
Yeah.
The premise seemed cool. When it started, I think I was in college, because it didn't start in like the 2000s. Early 2000s?
2000, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Summer of 2000.
So I wasn't watching too much television every week during that time. So.
Well, I would say we still watch it every week as a family. It's the only show we all watch as a family. It's on season 40 right now. It's an episode of Nothing But Winners. So all the previous winners, not all the previous winners, they got the 20 of 39 previous winners. And it's probably, I would say, it's up there as one of the best seasons ever. It's just been that good. So Survivor's my recommendation. Anything else from you for the stuff kids will like, and you might too?
No, bring on the adult stuff.
Okay. Well, let's move on to documentaries or docuseries. Yep. This was a topic you and I actually discussed a long time ago. And to me, I love these things. You learn something you didn't know about. You get taken back in time if it's something you did know about. Let's kind of split this up. You've probably got a list of more than one or two. I've got 7 or 8 on my list in this category because I love this stuff. But you're my guest. You go first. What do you got? So
I'm going to name off a few documentaries first because documentaries is probably one of my favorite type of films out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I'm going to say, I'm sure you probably watched it too, on Netflix, The Battered Bastards of Baseball.
Oh, God, I've never watched that, so I'm glad you said it. Yeah, go on.
Oh,
yes.
My God. Okay, Battered Bastards of Baseball. True story. We're in documentary fashion, about the Portland Mavericks, a team that lasted for about five years, from 73 to 77. It was an affiliate, not even an affiliate team really at first, but then it joined the Class A. Bing Russell was the owner. Kurt Russell's dad, which actually Kurt Russell played in the inaugural season on the team.
He was a baseball player, yeah.
And it was just a group of has-beens and never-weres. And Bing liked it because he said, or you can get that one last season in. And it was just an interesting, really fun documentary. My other one, since you are a musical artist, HBO came out with a documentary called May It Last, which was about the Avett Brothers recording of the album True Sadness.
Yeah.
And being an Avett Brothers fan, I just found it to be just really well done. And just some really good insight and a lot of good music. And then the last one of the documentaries, I have Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because I was in Springfield at the time, and I stopped by the theater just to watch it. I was just up in Springfield by myself, and I went and watched it in the theater by myself. And there was just a bunch of older ladies, like really old, like in a row, like in front of me. And when it was done, we all kind of turned and looked at each other and wanted to give everybody like a hug. We're all like got like tears in our eyes, and we're all just looking around like, everyone, can we just get a big group hug? Because it was such a really good documentary about Fred Rogers.
Yeah. Very good compliment to the Tom Hanks movie.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. They should go hand in hand. Yeah. And I just watched that finally the other day, and I found that to be way better than I thought it would be.
I
knew it was going to be good, but I was like, this is even better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was very well done. Tom Hanks, he gets swallowed into the role. You don't even realize it's him. He's so good. You mentioned music documentaries. You mentioned HBO. One I didn't have on my list, but I thought you were going to say, and I'll mess it up, and maybe you know the actual name. But it focused on It focused on Dr. Dre and
No, I actually didn't watch that.
God, who was it? The guy that kind of runs the music business.
Russell Simmons.
Well, it was Dr. Dre and the producer. He produced Tom Petty way back in the day. Now he owns Ticketmaster and everything else. Good.
The Defiant one.
That's it. The Defiant ones.
Defiant
That's
one.
the one. Yeah,
Okay.
that was very good. Four episodes of the docu-series, but kind of parallels. You know, those two people couldn't be different backgrounds and how they've
It was done by Alan Hughes.
come together. Yeah, that's on HBO. Music-wise as well, there's one out there. I think it's on Amazon now. If it was on Netflix, you'll find it between the two, called Hired Gun. And Hired Gun is about all of the musicians that are hired guns in major bands. So you think about artists like Pink, you know, her guitarist and her bass player. You don't know their names, but they've been there for a long time. And somebody like Phil X, who replaced Richie Sambora in Bon Jovi. He's not a member of Bon Jovi. He's a hired gun in Bon Jovi. Talks about, I tell you what, who it makes look bad is Billy Joel. Billy Joel kind of nixed his band after a while. And he was, you know, he's not painted out too well, but they talked to his drummer, Liberty. And, you know, the bass player ends up killing himself after he got kicked out of the band.
Wow.
Very up and down. Kenny Aronoff, who's kind of John Mellencamp's drummer forever, he's in it. Really good, really interesting, a little bit of jamming if you like music, very eclectic all the way up and down. One that goes with that is called 20 Feet from Stardom, about all the backup singers that have been out there. You know, people like Darlene Love, who you would know as Roger Murtaugh's wife in Lethal Weapon, used to be on Letterman every Christmas. She was a backup singer in the you know, Wall of Sound era and all that era. That's a good one. And then to me, one of the coup de grace of music docs over the last 10 years is Sound City. And Sound City, it was done by Dave Grohl, the Foo Fighters. And you can find that on YouTube actually right now with commercials. So it's good quality. It's not some rip, you know, poor quality thing, but it's on YouTube right now. It talks about the studio, Sound City, out in the Valley. That started in the 70s and how it came up and all the artists. We're talking like Barry Manilow. You know, we're talking about Fleetwood Mac being like the first one, Metallica, all the bands in the 80s. Everybody went through Sound City. Tom Petty, Johnny Cash, everybody went through there. And then Nirvana recorded Nevermind there. And
I've heard of them.
Yeah, once or twice. And then as it's going out of business, essentially it's closing up because it was an analog studio. Dave Grohl's like, well, what are they doing with the board? And so he bought the board and put it in his studio 606. And that's the story of the board. And then he gets all these people back together and he records an album on that board. And they got people that recorded in Sound City before, like Stevie Nicks. Like they had Paul McCartney on a song. They had, you know, all these different artists. And you watch it and there's an album that goes along with it. So if you're on Apple Music, I think it's called Sound City or something like that. You can find the complementing album that goes along with it. Great stuff there. What else you got in the docs series, buddy?
So docu-series, I have one called No One Saw a Thing. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, it was on the Sundance Channel, which you can stream, I think, from the Sundance Channel. And it was about a town in Skidmore, Missouri. Where
I know what you're talking about. Go ahead. Yeah.
Where the town collectively, in I think it was the early 80s, collectively got together and killed someone, and no one talked about it. I mean, they came there and investigated, and everyone's like, no, we didn't see you did it. The guy got shot up on Main Street in his truck. I mean, he was like the town bully. Everyone hated him. He'd done terrible things in that town. He had been, you know, connected to other bad things that happened there. And so finally they had enough and, shot him up. But yet no one saw anything. Even though there was people on Main Street, they have no clue what happened. But there's other things that's happened in that town of Skidmore that they also dive into. Interesting stuff, man.
I'll have to check that out. Sundance Channel. You can
Sundance Channel, yeah.
Okay.
Or no one saw a thing.
Okay.
And then my other one is more like miniseries, but was kind of like a documentary, and that was Chernobyl
Oh, yeah.
on HBO. And
That was rough.
that was rough, but I think everyone should at least watch it once to
I-
show what can happen if you withhold viable information and things that that should be known to where you could prevent something much bigger.
That couldn't happen in this day and age.
It could not. And I just thought it was very well done. It's one of those things, kind of like I'll think of it. But you want to watch it once, and after that, you're like, okay, I'm glad I watched it, but you're not going to go back again.
No, it's tough. My wife and I probably got 3 in, and I was so mad about it. I go, I don't even find this entertaining. It's killing me. It's tough. Yeah.
I did because I just think that it's a good history lesson.
Yeah.
Where history is bound to repeat itself if you don't remember what happened.
Exactly. All right, I got a couple more for you. You like sports?
I hate them.
One of the best.
Go Salukis.
Yeah. You're wearing the shirt right now. We
Yes.
could see each other, but people can't hear your shirt on the podcast.
It's pretty loud.
But here's the thing I would tell you: if you got Disney Plus, it's like $7. If you want Hulu, that's another $7. But you can get Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus bundled together for like $12. Now, there's a show on ESPN Plus, and it's called Peyton's Places with Peyton Manning.
Okay.
And last year, it aired last NFL season. It's like 28 episodes or something. They're all 20, 25 minutes. It was one of the best shows I've ever watched. And Peyton Manning, you know him as the commercial pitch man for Nationwide and all that stuff. He is so good as the host of this. He goes around and he talks to Joe Namath about the guarantee of winning the Super Bowl. He talks to Franco Harris and the people involved in the Immaculate Reception. He and his brother go to some house on Long Island where the jeweler that created the Super Bowl trophy lived, and he created the model for it out of a box of cornflakes, and they recreate it. He goes with Brett Favre to Vince Lombardi's house and sit in the basement and watch old game films. He and Tom Brady go to the announcer's house from CBS. I can't think of his name. And they're playing golf in his backyard, and they're like having a game of horse. It's like, okay, off the roof, next to the tree and closest to the pin. Every episode is different. Every episode is so entertaining. He did a whole episode about how much Elvis loved football. And they found in the archives at Graceland all these plays that Elvis drew up. And he takes a bunch of school kids from Memphis and he goes out onto the playground and he runs these plays. Zach, it's awesome. It is one of the best things I've ever seen. Had you heard of it?
I have not. I didn't even heard of it. No.
They preview it. They've been previewing it because ESPN needs content. But anyway, that's my recommendation about streaming. If you like Disney Plus and you got Hulu, bundle it together with ESPN. You actually save money, and you get ESPN Plus, you get Peyton's Places, and you get the library of every 30 for 30 they've ever done. All right. And who doesn't love those 30 for 30 documentaries?
Oh, they're great. They're still good.
So that is, to me, the greatest documentary series ever. The 30 for 30s, every single one of them is really good. I've been going back and watching old ones like, the USFL, not the XFL. They have one on that too.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got, they've got the whole series coming out now that starts this week with Jordan and the Bulls and the Last Dance, it's called. So that's a 30 for 30. Awesome stuff.
I'll
Made in America
that,
with OJ was a 30 for 30. All that stuff's out there.
Mm-hmm.
The last sports related two I'll give you, and they're not really sports related, it's more adventure. One is called Free Solo, and that's on Disney Plus. I think it's one of the National Geographic ones. It's called Free Solo, not Han Solo. Free Solo, and it's about this guy that climbs El Capitan out in Yosemite. 4,000 feet straight up, free, no ropes, nothing. And I will tell you, number one, I honestly, I was so scared at points of watching it. I had to Google whether or not he makes it at the end because I couldn't I didn't know what I was going to do. I won't spoil that for you. Number 2, it's gorgeous. The cinematography in this thing, of the way they show him in the mountain, and it's unbelievable in HD on Disney Plus. You got to watch Free Solo. And the last one, kind of a hidden gem, the Barkley Marathon, which is about a race in East Tennessee.
You do
Go ahead.
Wait, didn't you do a podcast with this?
I've talked about this numerous times.
About it. Okay.
If I can get
I've heard about it from you.
Yeah. If I can get somebody that ran the Barkley on my podcast, I'll just quit, because that would be the best thing I could ever do. But aside from having Zach Weigel. But the Barkley Marathon's a race. It's over 100 miles in length. You've got to finish it in 60 hours. They've had 1,000, 1,200 people attempt it. 15 have actually finished the race. It's not about who wins. It's who can just really finish the race. It's that grueling. It's called Barkley Marathons, The Race That Eats Its Young, available now, Amazon Prime. You got any other docs you want to talk about before we move on?
No, because if I need to save some in case this happens, in case this drags on. And we have to do this
another
again.
one? Yeah, okay. What do you want next, buddy? What you missed or background noise?
Let's go with what we missed.
What we missed. Okay. Again, you're my guest. You get to go first.
So I looked at this as shows that I probably could have, included on the last time we did this.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, slipped my mind. First, I'm going to start with Friday Night Lights.
Good show.
I think it's one of the best shows ever made. It was on NBC, and then it had to move to DirecTV. Because NBC wanted to cancel it, but DirecTV is like, no, this is still good. Once again, I couldn't tell you. I didn't even look to see where it's streaming, but it's out there somewhere. To me, everything is streaming because you can even go to Amazon and always get episodes. But Peter Berg is the one that created that. Peter Berg also did The Leftovers, who I brought up before.
Yeah.
Ballers. About the show, Dillon, Texas, based on the book, Coach Eric Taylor. And I just thought it was, honestly, 5 seasons long. That last one was maybe a half season, but I loved it. I mean, I just thought it was some of the best television out there at the time.
Texas high school football. That's what it's about.
Texas high school football. Next, I'm going to go basically my Judd Apatow twofer. It's a twofer you get here.
Okay.
He started off with Freaks and Geeks. And Freaks and Geeks came out before, he did all of his movies that he had later on. But it's a high school drama. Or comedy/drama, because every episode was around 50 minutes. It was on NBC, and it lasted for about a season and a half. But that's where the beginnings of Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jason Segel, Linda Cardellini, which was she was in that Bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Starr, who was in the show Silicon Valley. And so I just thought it was ahead of its time, just how smartly written it was, and it really, I thought, depicted the early '80s. Even though I wasn't in high school in the early '80s, but I thought it did a good job of what I think it depicting what it could be like. And then, since that didn't last too long, a little bit later, he came out with a show called Undeclared, which was in college, and the main character is Jay Baruchel, which he hangs around with us whole quick. He's like the skinnier kid that you see in a lot of Judd Apatow movies. He was I'm trying to think some of the other shit or movies he might have been in. It's not coming to me. But Seth Rogen was also in it. Yeah. He lived in the dorms with him. He was actually Jason Segel was in that one as well. And I just, at the time that came out when I was in college, and so I ate it up, but that only lasted about a season. But you put those together, you got about 2.5, 3 seasons worth of entertainment of Judd Apatow entertainment.
Widely regarded as one of the best shows that never lasted longer. That one. And I'll tell you what,
Freaks and Geeks was.
I've never watched it either. So
definitely, if you can get around to that. And then finally, on what we missed, I'm going to go with Twin Peaks.
Okay.
Twin Peaks, once again, very binge-worthy because it was only a couple seasons. Even though Showtime just came out with another season, 20 plus years later, that also had the movie Fire Walk with Me. But David Lynch, if you don't know much about David Lynch and some of his movies, definitely the type of that would be right up your alley if you like his movies. Just, I mean, it was a show that had a beginning and an end, ahead of its time, kind of like a Lost.
Things weren't serialized back then until something like that came along.
They weren't.
And then 24, and kind of picked it up and ran with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a really weird show that I'm surprised lasted as long as it did. Like, this would be a show that could be out now and do very well, like a Netflix, because we're at this era now of like niche, where you just like, you can watch specific things and it can go on for seasons. Yeah. Back then, this was on, I think, CBS or ABC, and it was out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you ever watched it. Twin Peaks, did you watch it?
Yeah, but I'll say like the first season or the first half, and then I kind of got lost in that was the pre-digital, everything's available all the time era. Then you kind of lose it.
Oh, yeah. I still thought it was very well done. The ending I still like. So, yeah. So that's what I would say we missed on the bigger list.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna bring back one of my honorable mentions because I think it just still holds up so well, and it's Lost.
Oh, we're going back.
I mean, if you didn't catch it the first time, or even if you did, go back and watch it. It was so good. It was just so good. I don't even have to. You'll sing the praises as much as I will. I mean, it was
I just
so
deep.
Don't worry about what you thought.
I got the Blu-ray of it finally.
Yeah.
Every season, I let one of my friends borrow it, being like, "Hey, you have time now. Stop saying you're not going to watch it, or you don't have time to watch it. You do. Here it is." So
it's on Hulu.
I agree, though.
You pick it up on Hulu, and that's where you'll find it. Then another thing, actually, as we were kind of starting this off, as my wife and I, we finished Ozark, and we did the whole triple subscription: Disney Plus, ESPN, Hulu. We were watching. We were looking for something on there, and we found 11/22/63. 11/22/63, 8 episodes. So it's kind of a mini event based on a Stephen King novel. And if you remember the date, or it rings a bell, 11/22/63, it is the date of the John F. Kennedy assassination. And the premise of the show, and it's Stephen Kingiest best, is this guy, played by James Franco, gets put up by another classically great actor, underrated, one of the best that guys. Like, who's that guy? I know that guy from something else. That guy is Chris Cooper. Mm-hmm. And Chris Cooper owns a diner, and James Franco is a school teacher, and he shows up at this diner, and then like something happens, and then he comes back out of the kitchen like 2 minutes later, and he looks like holy hell, and he's like dying. And he convinces James Franco he's got to go into the stockroom in the diner. Well, the stockroom is a portal back to the 60s. And for years, he's been trying to go back to stop the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and he hasn't been able to do it. So he gets James Franco to go back. And it's really good. It's really deep, very well done. Cinematography's great. It's very well shot. And it's only 8 episodes. You don't have to commit to seasons worth of things. Mm-hmm. My wife and I knocked it out over about 4 nights, 2 episodes a night. It was really, really good. So 11, 20.
Hour-long episodes?
They were about. Some of them might have been like 62 minutes. Some of them were 48. But you don't have to like bite off a project. You could jump in. 11/22/63, available on Hulu. And that was my big 2 there, aside from, going back to like big documentaries you may have missed in the past. And I bring this one up. Anything by Ken Burns.
Oh,
the PBS stuff is now, you can get the PBS app on your Fire Stick, your Apple TV, whatever it is. All those Ken Burns documentaries, whether it's the national parks, which is just awesome. Baseball, those are awesome. And again, Civil War is the one that kind of started it all for him. World War II, the Vietnam, all those are great. Go back and bite off a Ken Burns series while you've got the time. Number 1, it takes your mind off things. And number 2, they're gorgeous. I'm a big fan, like I was talking about Free Solo earlier. They're gorgeously done. They
Mhm.
fill up your big screen TV in ways that they just make you feel good. They
Mhm.
really really do. They're just great to do. And those would be my three things that I would tell you to go back and catch if you haven't before. An old one that you might have seen, one you probably missed, and then the Ken Burns series.
Yeah.
Anything else
I
you
think,
want to add in there?
I think, yeah, while we're on this one, I just have to bring it up because it's having right now their best season yet, and that's Better Call Saul.
Oh yeah, I'm behind.
It,
I got to catch up this season. Yeah,
it is having the best season yet, and it's the second to last season. So I would recommend that anyone go back and at least get caught up because I think that final season you're not going to want to binge at once. It's going to be you're going to watch every week because you don't want to have anybody else talking about it and finding out secondhand what's going on.
And Better Call Saul is a prequel to one of the greatest series ever, which is
Breaking Bad.
That's right.
It's on our pantheon. It's on our our Mount Rushmore.
It's a Mount Rushmore
of
of shows. Absolutely, it is. Yeah. All right, Zach. Final category. Final big category. And we call this one background noise. Because everything we've kind of mentioned before, with the exception of the kids stuff, these are usually things, if we're recommending them, they're either serialized, they're very deep, the world is very rich, so to speak. You can't not pay attention because you're going to get lost, no pun intended, in something. So the question is here is, what do you recommend? Even if most people have probably seen this stuff already, what do you recommend that they just, you know what, I don't want to watch the news, but I got stuff to do around the house or whatever, that you just put on the streamer, and when one episode runs into the next, okay, you missed 5 minutes because the kids were, needed something, or you had to walk outside and take out the trash, but you come back in, you don't have to rewind it. The stuff that's just great background noise.
So I guess I probably should have thought about this category more because mine's all comedies on this. And you might maybe when I hear some of yours, it might me think of more. But one that just popped up on Netflix, it's on there, Community.
Mm-hmm.
The entire series of Community. Joel McHale, who we mentioned earlier, doing the follow-up of The Tiger King, hosting that. Donald Glover. We're talking Childish Gambino here.
Yeah.
And I'll bring him up on another one here in a second. Chevy Chase, Ken Jeong, Allison Brie, who's in the Netflix show the Glow. It's just I thought it was a really just fun comedy. It's not too deep. It lasted for X amount of years on NBC, and then it moved to Yahoo. So I never did watch it like how it ended because it went streaming. So I'm glad that it's on. It's all on Netflix now. But that just is one that just started here. One of my favorite older shows, News Radio.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
News Radio. Joe Rogan, Phil Hartman.
Andy Dick.
David, Kids in the Hall. David, forgot his last name. Yeah, I just thought it was just ahead of its time. I thought the comedy was great. And that's one that you can definitely just have it in the background and keep going along with. And then also 30 Rock.
30. I was going to mention 30 Rock. First time you stole one from me.
Yes, I did. I took 30 Rock. Now, did you also know that Donald Glover was a writer for that show, too?
No way.
Yeah, him and Tina Fey were the head writers.
I did not know that.
Donald Glover, look it up, writer for 30 Rock. But yeah, we're talking Alec Baldwin. We're talking Tina Fey.
Tracy Morgan.
Tracy Morgan. And every character.
That's right, Liz Lemon.
It's every character you just can't forget. There's memorable
Frank,
characters on it.
Everybody on that show is great. Yeah.
And and that's one of those ones I'm thinking that I need to go back and rewatch.
Now the thing is that I don't know where it is right now because it was forever on Netflix and I watched it all the time. I don't think it's on Netflix anymore. That one, we got to find out where that is. If you're listening,
streaming.
shoot us a note. Yeah, it's on NBC, I'm sure. Maybe it's on Hulu. I have to look that up.
NBC streaming.
Yeah.
Okay, since I took that one, I'll also then just throw one more out there. Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Just because we talked about The Office before.
Yep.
Greg Daniels, who created the American version of that, also did this, and Amy Poehler,
Amy.
Aubrey Plaza to me.
Oh, yes.
One of the most underrated indie actresses out there. Her and Zoe Kazan. I love them both. Rob Lowe, Adam Scott, Aziz Ansari, and then some guy named Chris Pratt.
Just happened to become a biggest star in the world almost.
Yeah, and I mean, if you like The Office, I don't know why you wouldn't like this. I was actually skeptical at first. It took me a few episodes.
It took me
maybe even like a season.
Yeah, the first season, not good.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I recommend that show now, I say just start season 3.
Oh,
you're missing a little bit, but it's not enough to kill you. But then when you're done, you can go back and watch season 1 and 2, and you appreciate just how good that show really was. The writing was excellent. Nick Offerman, obviously.
Nick Offerman,
yes. He's like my spirit animal. You know, and he's so good in it. Then you watch like something on YouTube. I turned it on. He was on This Old House showing the guys how he picks. And my wife goes, he's just being his character. I go, no, that's how he really is. That's him. That is really him.
He eats his bacon with a side of bacon.
Unpopular opinion here. If you said you got to watch, you only get one, Parks and Rec or The Office, I'm going Parks and Rec.
Blasphemy. No, Office. All day, every day, and twice on Sunday. Especially if you're wanting to give up the first 2 seasons.
I love The Office. We're talking small nth degrees here. Both of these shows are in my top 5, but I would give the nod to Parks and Rec. It's not like I hate The Office. I love The Office. When Michael Scott left The Office, when Steve Carell leaves, it's a big downturn at The Office. But Parks and Rec, so solid for 4 seasons, maybe seasons 3 through 6 is some of the best stuff for every reason you mentioned. It's not even just, see, now I'm going on a whole Parks and Rec thing. You know, it's all the simple characters. You mentioned Aubrey Plaza, who's just so dry and so awesome.
Yeah.
But my favorite characters is like Jean-Ralphio.
Yeah.
And Jean-Ralphio's sister. You know, and Henry Winkler pops in, and you got Bill Murray with a cameo, and it's just so good. It was so good. All right, yeah. So we leave like The Office, Seinfeld, Friends, Cheers. You could take those 4 shows and stream them all day long. They've never left sitcom heaven, you know, basically on reruns. So we leave those out, and so I had 30 Rock, I had Parks and Rec. Not a comedy, but The Sopranos. I can basically watch The Sopranos like I watch Goodfellas or Casino.
But isn't all the shows on HBO free right now?
They are, yeah. And like
HBO is. Which I mean, I have HBO, but
even The Sopranos is on. Most of those HBO shows, not Westworld or whatever, I don't think, you can get on Amazon Prime. So you can watch a lot of those.
But HBO's letting you stream everything right now.
Yeah. I would really recommend. So if you never watched The Sopranos, that's a Mount Rushmore for me.
That's a Mount Rushmore.
But that goes up there with Breaking Bad and Lost and a few of the others.
That might be my next rewatch. Sopranos, actually.
And again,
it's been over 10 years since I've watched that.
That's one of those you jump in at season 3 while it's hitting on all cylinders. It just doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't. The writing is so good. It's so good. So good. Well, Zach, that was all of our streaming show categories. I popped one in on you at the end because when you're in between streaming these shows, sometimes you just need to go back and watch a classic movie, knock out 2 hours, something you think your kids need to walk in and just be, just have to experience with mom and dad, or just something you've gone back to over this last 3-4 weeks since we've been in the quarantine. What are the shows that what are the movies, classic movies that you say, you know what, you got to go back and watch these one more time?
So I kind of went a little bit different route because I think classic, I also think of underrated. So, and I still think it's classic because I can watch these over and over. And so I have 2 that kind of pertain to the situation we're in right now. And then one that well. It's one of my favorite when it comes to just underrated and a classic. So I'm going to start off with Children of Men. Have you ever seen Children of Men?
I have not.
Children of Men came out mid 2000s. It's a Alfonso Cuarón movie. He did the movie like Gravity, won an Oscar for Best Picture for Gravity. But it's one of his earlier ones. It has Clive Owen in it, Julianne Moore, and Michael Caine. And it's based on in the future where a pandemic type thing happens, to where it leaves where women can't reproduce. And so the whole planet's freaking out. It's actually already like a dystopian type society almost, because people are panicking because they don't know how they're going to keep the planet going. But yet there's one person that is pregnant. And so it's like their journey trying to get to where they think where they're at, to get into a place where they're safe. Because, of course, the government wants control of this, and all these people are coming after them. And it's so beautifully shot. It is just, it's like a 1917 beautifully shot. Because it's kind of like they're following the people the whole time. So, like, if blood happens, it'll splatter onto like the lens, like while they're still following.
And when
people.
is this from? What year was this?
Like 2007, maybe 2006, okay. 2007. Yeah. But I consider it a classic. I've watched it a few times, and I can watch it over. Another one, since my situation is like others, but not like everybody, is I'm here during this pandemic by myself. So a lot of self-reflection, goes on during that, because you don't see, humans except for over a video screen, or if I go, through like a drive-through and grab food or something. And so, and I have this on Blu-ray as well, a movie called Into the Wild, with Emile Hirsch, directed by Sean Penn, and based on a popular book about a guy that's basically, he quits his job and trying to figure out his life, and decides he's just going to kind of go cross-country hitchhiking, staying in the woods, where finally he ends up staying like in these woods for years, like by himself, and he's just wanting to figure out his own way, his own life. But he has to do it in a lot of solitude. He doesn't really know anyone, doesn't really talk to many people. And I thought that's one that could apply to some people that are sitting here, and during this pandemic, where there is a lot of days you're just wandering around and like, humans would be nice at some point. Like, yeah. So that's on there. But to lighten up the mood a little bit more, besides this too, one of my all-time favorites, a movie called Rushmore.
Yep.
Wes Anderson, he's done a lot of good movies. This is probably still my favorite one. Bill Murray, Jason Schwartzman. Jason Schwartzman plays a kid who's involved in everything, but he's also falling in love with his teacher. But so is Bill Murray, and they became friends along the way. And it's their rivalry on who can get this woman, even though that kid's in high school. He's much older, and it's so outlandish. It's so smartly written. The soundtrack is phenomenal. And it's just, I could watch that over and over and over, along with a lot of other Wes Anderson movies. I could watch over and over. But this one, to me, still takes the cake.
Well, I got to tell you, you took it in a different direction than I was thinking.
Because, I could comment on your classics. Yeah. But I don't know. I think too much right now.
So mine are going to be like, you're the teacher and you were expecting something out of the assignment. And then, like I'm the student that's turning in like a joke, right? Yeah. So I kind of I scroll through, what's popular now on some of these streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, whatever it is. And I go, God, I got to watch that movie again. That was so good. And your kids. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, my son's 17. He needs to watch this. He hasn't seen it before. It was a major thing. And I'm older than you. You by a few years. I think I got you by like 10.
20 or 24 years.
Not quite that
38.
Slick. But here's the deal. It's like, here's my number one. That, not my number one, but the first one on the list. Yeah. Red Dawn. It's like somebody the other day posted the meme of the poster of Red Dawn.
The old one, right?
Oh, the old one, not the remake. Okay. Yeah. And it said, remember, these kids didn't get their graduation either in 1984. And I thought that was funny, and it reminded me, it's like, you You got to watch that movie. It's kind of one of those things. So one of these days, it's like I got to make my kid come in and watch that movie and say,
Fun fact, that was like my favorite movie growing up.
Oh, yeah.
For so many years.
Everybody knows it of a certain age, but it's still so good to go back and watch. It is so good. We see Thomas Howell, Charlie Sheen in his debut. Of course, Peak Swayze. I don't know about Peak Swayze. Peaking Swayze, is in there. His gal pal from Dirty Dancing in her first movie. Everything's just so great about it. Another one of those movies full of that guy. Oh, that guy. I remember that guy. He was from that other thing. I love that guys. Yeah. That's a whole thing. We should do a podcast just on that guy.
We can do that guys.
The best that guys. The next one I had on my list, and I put it on the list literally 10 minutes before we started this, is Tommy Boy. And the reason I put it on the list 10 minutes ago is because Brian Dennehy, Tom Callahan Sr., just passed away today. Today's the 16th. We're taping this on the 16th. He died today. That was Tommy Boy's dad in the movie. And of course, the whole plot of Tommy Boy is his dad dies and he's got to go save the brake pad company. And, you talk about a classic, that guy. I mean,
yeah, he was.
He was in Rambo. He was in everything. Brian Dennehy.
I went through his IMDb today because I was like, I'm going to add like a Brian Dennehy gem on here. And besides Tommy Boy, I'm like, what, FX? FX2? Like, he was in a lot of like TV movies, but he was a lot of that guy.
He's
but
that
never
guy.
Was he like, yeah, he was that guy in a lot of, yeah. It wasn't bad that like after going through his IMDb, I wasn't as sad. I was like, maybe I don't remember him as much except for Tommy Boy and stuff. Sorry, Brian. Well, I would have been more weak here if you would have starred in more things.
Have you ever listened to the podcast called you'd like it? People out there that are listening to this podcast would like it as well. It's called The Rewatchables. And it's from The Ringer, Bill Simmons' network. It's called The Rewatchables. Okay. You look that up, and it's basically what they do is an hour and a half version of kind of what we do in 10 seconds on these movies. Is they rewatch an old movie, say like Tommy Boy, which they just did, and they talk about how it holds up, what were the best parts, who won the movie, who was at their apex, in the movie. I would say Tommy Boy was the apex of Brian Dennehy's career. But there's a podcast recommendation for you. So we've done streaming. My recommendation on the podcast front is The Rewatchables. Search for that one. Yeah. You'll love it. You put that in your ears. You go for a walk around town.
I go for a walk all the time.
You won't be disappointed with your old pal Johnny's recommendation there. And then the last one now. Hunt for Red October. I put it on there. I say it when somebody goes, "What's your favorite movie of all time?" I always say The Hunt for Red October. And I don't mean that it's the best movie of all time. It might not be the best movie I've ever seen. There are better films. There are better Alec Baldwin films. There are probably better Sean Connery films. But that comes out in 1988. All I did for years after that was read Tom Clancy books, was get into Tom Clancy, who wrote the book. I'll honestly say, as much as I love Harrison Ford, Alec Baldwin was a better Jack Ryan, the best of all the Jack Ryans. And there's another series we didn't talk about. We can kind of come back to Jack Ryan on Amazon Prime. 2 seasons of gold there. That was good too. So those were my 3 movies.
I heard that's good.
You should go back to. Wags, what else do we have to say? What did we not talk about?
Oh, I mean, our busy lives right now and all the places we're going and visiting. And no, this is what we have right now. We have podcasting. We have video. I recommend the app House Party. I've been doing that with my friends. You can play games while also video chatting and things like that.
House Party. I downloaded that and I stopped right there. I don't know why I forgot because somebody mentioned that. Maybe I'll friend you on it. And I'll figure out how to use it. House Party.
Yeah. Okay. House Party. Yeah. We'll all sit around on like a Friday with my friends, like 5 or 6 of us, and I'll sit there and have some cocktails with my friends over a video screen
Gotcha.
to have, somewhat of a sense of normalcy. But I don't know. I mean, I guess we could talk about all the recipes we've been making and all the things that we say we were going to do around the house that we still haven't done around the house.
Well, the weather hasn't been great. We had about 7-8 days. It's supposed to get better this weekend. Over the weekend when we release this, It might be a little bit better, but it's been tough. What message do you have for folks out there as they go through this? You're always a light in the darkness.
I hate saying that things could be worse, but really they could. I mean, just think back if this was the 1980s, we wouldn't have streaming, we wouldn't have internet. There's a lot of things that we can still do and be thankful for. And also, get out of the house, go for walks. I honestly will go for walks with the hopes of seeing people on their porch. So at least I could talk to them from a distance, and say hi to them. I go through walks through town, and they would wave at people. They drive by. They might stop their car and in the middle of the street, and I would talk to them from there. But it's just make the best of it. I made a fort in my front yard the other day, like I was a kid. I got on an air mattress. I moved everything out of the way.
And your yard or your living room?
My living room.
Oh, okay.
And I set up this air mattress. So when I lay on it and I look up at I think it's I have a 60-inch TV. It would feel like I was in a big theater because I look up and I'm it's right in front of me. Little things like that I'm just trying to do, to find some positivity in all of it. And also, I guess just trying to be somewhat as positive as I can on social media, because it seems like the more we look at it, the more draining it's getting. And I want to stay positive. I want to say, yes, I can't wait for the summer concert series. At the same time, well, are we going to have one? All those things, I'm pushing to the side, and I guess just making the best of what's happening right now.
Right.
And not trying to think too far ahead.
Yeah, I know. It's been tough. And I agree with you. The reason I do this podcast, I actually brought it back in the last month. I did an episode a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And we started putting some classic rewinds out there. I wanted to do this episode with you. I've got 2 or 3 others planned. But I've really gotten more active on social media as trying to be that person that's bringing some light. Or I should say I'm trying to alleviate the heaviness of the situation. So if you're listening to this, you're probably on my podcast page, and you're all welcome to join me 8 p.m. Central every Sunday night. You've been joining me for my trivia nights. I read 20 questions. None of it's too tough. We don't keep score. Yeah, you just guess in the chat. Sometimes it's humorous. Actually, I like it when people have wrong answers because those are funnier than getting the right answers all the time. The other thing I'm doing...
The Sorrento's the right answer, always.
And the other thing that I'm doing, and maybe you could do this too. You're saying you're out walking. You don't notice this. I'm not doing it on the podcast page, but I live here in the small town, Mount Olive, Illinois. Mm-hmm. Exit 44 on your FM dial on I-55, right? I walk every day that I can. I usually go 2 miles in the morning. I ride my bike in the evening. I can tell you this. I'm down 14 to 17 pounds, depending on the day, since this all started.
Awesome.
I'm not eating myself out of the house. I'm actually exercising. I'm enjoying it as best I can. But what I've been doing is, you talk about going on walks, I'm noticing the small things.
Yeah.
You walk past these stores that you walk past all the time, and you notice these small little details that have been painted over in some cases, that have been there for 100 years that you don't even notice. And I'll tell you what I'm doing. You should do this for the borough. I take a picture of some small little detail, and I turn it into the local scavenger hunt. Now, it's not a social gathering thing, but it's a social distancing activity. If you want to go for a walk, and here's what I post a little picture of a piece of a building. Like I took a picture of a cast iron little rose emblem on an old building that doesn't even have a name anymore because there's no business there, but the building's still there. I take a close-up picture of that. I post it to the Mount Olive town page, and I call it the Mount Olive scavenger hunt day, whatever the day is. And the only rule is you don't comment. Don't ask for comments on the answer. Basically, the rule is you can't comment the answer. You don't want people going, oh, that's the drugstore. They have to go take a picture of it in context and post it And that's how you score it. And I say, like it if you know the answer. Sad if you don't. You can do that with like or sad. But if you're going to comment, you better make it a picture. And then I had a lady yesterday, like, take a file photo off Google. I'm like, no, that don't count. You got to go take a picture from today.
So, I think I'm going to steal that from you.
You should.
Steal that from you.
I mean, it's something I used to do at Disneyland or Disney World with my Disney World kind of friends. I started doing it here, and I've had people near and far that are former residents. They've messaged me, they comment, they feel like they've got a piece of hometown with them when they see this pop up every day, which reminds me, I still got to do one for the day. But I do it about 5 days a week, and you take a picture so infinitely small, but somebody recognizes it, and then they got to go find it. Like the newspaper office has an old, like 80s, 90s era Mac in their front window. You wouldn't notice it unless you were standing next to it. You take a picture of that, and then people got to go walk up and down Main Street to find it. It's a daily scavenger hunt. There's no points. There's no prize. It's all for fun, and you're connecting yourself to your hometown, and I have fun with it. You should do it too.
So
Anyone in whatever town, you should do it. I don't post it out to my entire friend base or the podcast because I just do it here to the local Facebook community page. That's what I'm doing.
That's a great idea. I like this. I'm definitely stealing that. And if you're lucky, I'll even give you credit for it.
Maybe what you could do is just finally write my name down on the board at the Opera House and pre-buy me a beer.
If they would let me go in there.
Someday it will reopen. Our friends Tony and Jennifer. We pray you get open soon.
Oh, yes. Oh. And it's not necessarily even their beer that I miss. I just miss, the people going there.
Yeah.
But there is a light at the end of this tunnel because what's coming out soon?
Stamps Weigale, the beer.
Stamps Weigale, named by the one and only John Knowles of What's That Like podcast and Retro Rocket fame.
Why did I name it Stamps Weigale?
It's in honor of Stamp Cancer, my father, all of that. And we've talked many a podcast about that before, but it is coming out soon. We're actually, the rollout is going to coincide with a journal news article. And last I heard from Tony, he's actually going to make just a special day of just releasing just that.
Yeah.
To the public. So, yeah, it was, I think, going to be this week. It might be next week. But, yeah, it's coinciding with the journal news article and all that fun stuff.
I told him I wanted can 5 or 6, whatever. I want your family to have the initial run, but I need at least something out of the first quote-unquote 6-pack. I named it. Yeah. I named it.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can save you maybe like beer number 85 or something.
Oh, come on, man. All right. Hey, Zach, dude, if nothing else, this is good therapy for both of us to just have a chat. It feels normal. Normally, you're right here with me in Studio 312, and you're not, but this has been fun.
I tell you what, but having the headphones does make me feel like I'm in Studio 312 right now, just because you're having your voice like coming in there. Yeah, so it's not bad.
Anything final for our listeners before we wrap this show up, buddy?
No, thank you, John. Keep up the good work. These have been, it's been awesome being on these shows. I encourage everyone to go back and listen to our original one about what to binge watch for, because there's always good things out there. And I would say, get interactive, comment whenever you post this. Let us know maybe things that we missed.
Oh, you know what?
We're always looking for things.
That happened. I did post this a while ago. How can I forget our listeners? I posted this a while ago and asked for some suggestions of people that wanted their background noise shows. So let me run through them. They took the time to comment. Let me talk about them. Jake Carter, my friend Jake over in Gillespie. He's a high school junior, says Letterkenny. Danielle Schmidt said The Office are Friends. We talked about that. My friend Tim Prost said Big Bang or anything on Motor Trend TV. Kim Labonte, New Girl. Betsy Becker, Hildebrand, she said Friends. And Ted Desatel said Seinfeld. Congrats to all you. You got name checked on the What's That Like podcast.
Nice. Well, and you know who didn't get name checked? Brad Skirtich.
Well, yeah. Yeah, because you gotta participate, Brad.
He does. And well, he's hoity-toity now. You know, he switched jobs. He's at a much bigger school district.
Right.
And he probably is has much better things to do than to listen to us.
I know. Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah, Brad Skirtich, former superintendent of the Southwestern School District. Now he's like superintendent of the Collinsville School District. Bigger and better things, I guess, right?
Bigger and better things, but he forgot about those that was with him along the way.
You should shoot him a note on Twitter. You'll find him on there.
He is on Twitter.
Tell him he needs to support the What's That Like podcast a little more. That's it. Little inside baseball for y'all. Zach Weigel, thanks for being on the What's That Like podcast once more.
My pleasure.
That's it. You want to take us out, my friend? You want to say the words?
I'm trying to think. The words are. Oh yeah. Peace out.
What's That Like is available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Search for What's That Like. Subscribe today and never miss an episode. Streaming is available at SoundCloud.com and on the SoundCloud app. Follow What's That Like at Facebook.com/What's That Like podcast and on Twitter at What's That Like Pod. All opinions of the guests of the What's That Like podcast are their own, not necessarily the views of the host or the podcast producers. We hope you enjoy this podcast serving Central Illinois and beyond. Peace out!